2016. Yeah. Roll call.
Knight. Knight. Allen.
Here.
Genzik.
Here.
Engels.
Here.
Bontrager. Pavilio. Walkley.
Here.
Holt.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Okay, next one is approval agenda. Have a motion, or we want to change something?
Move to approve it.
Get a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Holt.
Yes.
Engels.
Yes.
Genzik.
Yes.
Pavilio. Knight. Walkley.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Bontrager. Nichols.
Yes. Okay. Approval of minutes for the last meeting is September 15th. Any corrections, deletions, or whatever? If not, make a motion. Okay, motion to approve. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Nichols.
Yes.
Knight. Walkley.
Yes.
Pavilio. Genzik.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Engels.
Yes.
Bontrager. Allen.
Yep.
Okay. Before we start new business, a couple quick comments. There's two variances on our menu tonight. So if you're here for the second one, please wait for your comments to that time, and we're going to hold them to 3 minutes. Okay?
Like me to take over?
Yep.
Okay. The first variance application we have is from Ben Bigelow, who owns Bigelow Construction. And it has to do with a vacant, dilapidated home that he bought at 209 East Pine Street, I don't know how many years ago, 2-3 years ago. But it was vacant, it was dilapidated, and he's basically been, as you can see in this picture, replacing windows, doors. The interior I've been in, it was very, very old. It was a very, very old home. Along with that, he did, I believe, the addition to the back. He was going to extend the porch. It had a porch on it. It had a small enclosed porch on it. But essentially the application here is, the variance request is to extend the roof of this front porch an extra 18 inches to account for the soffit. 18 inches is the width of the soffit. And this porch, the roof has already been constructed, but the site plan that was submitted showed a 6-foot porch, which was built with the roof, but the soffit extended it an extra 1.5 feet inside the front yard setback. So the variance basically is to request that, you know, he can leave this soffit. I mean, it looks good, it's constructed, but because of the way these homes are set on that block of pine, they're more or less built, you know, without a lot of room forward to meet the front yard setback, basically. This is a RM1 zone district, and the front yard setback in this type of district, like an R3, R4, is 15 feet. I'd mentioned it had a small front porch, etc. The way he did not enclose this porch like the old one, but the way the ordinance reads for porches, you could technically build an uncovered porch extending 10 feet out from the front of your house. But that is not a covered porch. You know, a covered porch, generally, it has to meet the setbacks. And because this had a porch before, that had a roof over it. It was actually totally enclosed. You know, he was allowed in the site plan to build a 6-foot wide porch, which he did, but then the soffit extended it. So basically, the setback at the end of the soffit, not the porch, is 10 feet 6 inches, which is inside the 15 feet, but he was actually approved to have a 12-foot setback with the porch, the site plan that he submitted based on what was previously there. You know, he basically took out a dilapidated porch and replaced it with a new porch. Having said that, all of you got this site plan in your packets, and it basically shows back in 2005. Now, it was updated a little more with the porch, but the original building permit that he submitted to the county was back in 2005, as you can see from what you have in your packet. The site characteristics of it, it's surrounded by other RM1 districts are classified as multiple two-family districts. Generally, there are a lot of rental homes in those districts. You have a lot of homes that are either right at that 15-foot front yard setback, or they're closer to the front yard property line sidewalk than 15 feet. In the case of this particular block, in the immediate neighborhood, you've got two properties, one a couple doors to the east and one a couple doors to the west, that have porches that are clearly closer to the sidewalk than the 15-yard setback. There is, in fact, one that in the GIS photo that you had at in your packet, this particular home here on the corner with Shelby has a front porch that extends even closer. I believe it's 9 feet some inches, and that's actually not just a covered porch. That is a completely enclosed porch. So it extends there. This particular one here, also the porch extends closer than 15 feet to the sidewalk. We're going to go through the standards here with these are the same standards that are in the City Code of Ordinances, but for those of you that aren't familiar, this follows the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. These are standards that are in the Zoning Enabling Act. And basically it says that in consideration of a variance, the Zoning Board of Appeals shall first determine that the proposed variance will not result in conditions which, 1, can impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent properties, cannot unreasonably increase congestion in public streets, cannot increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety, unreasonably diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area, and 5, in any other respect impair the public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of the city. And these are standards which we follow constantly, and I'm looking for a copy of something I put here, excuse me. In going through these 5 standards, the standard as far as impairing an adequate supply of light and air to the site, the porch that's been constructed with the roof, it's not enclosed. These findings are basically staff opinion, but there should be no impact on light and air to the adjacent properties. This porch is not enclosed. The finding having to do with congestion in public streets. The proposed request and site plan should not impact traffic congestion on public streets in any way. The use of the home is not being changed. It's being, remodeled, refurbished, put back into service. As far as endangering public safety, fire endangering public safety, this should in no way endanger public safety. All the building code regulations, fire code regulations need to be followed and inspections done before it gets a certificate of occupancy. The fourth standard, as far as diminishing or impairing established property values within the surrounding area, the refurbishing that he's doing is clearly improving the value of this property. Potentially, it could improve value of neighboring property values, but that's an unknown. The final standard with respect to public health, safety, morals, comfort, welfare of the inhabitants of the city, the work that Mr. Bigelow is doing to this home should not in any way, in staff opinion, impair the public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of this city. An additional standard, and this pertains to variances. No such non-conforming use of structure or land shall be enlarged, increased, extended, or alter to occupy an area greater, occupy a greater area of land than was occupied at the effective date of adoption or amendment of the ordinance from which this chapter is derived. This home in every way meets the standards as far as the square footage on the lot. It's well within the allotted square footage. It meets the side yard setbacks. It meets the rear yard setbacks. So there's no concerns with any of those. But an exception to this restriction can be made where an otherwise lawful structure exists that could not be built under the terms of this chapter by reason of restrictions on area, lot coverage, height, yards, or other characteristics of the structure or of this location of the lot. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve the reestablishment, expansion, alteration, or extension upon evidence of demonstrable hardship or practical difficulty resulting from conditions which do not generally exist in this zone. The only finding that I found that may create a practical difficulty was that when this home was built many, many years ago, it was clearly, this and the other homes near it, were clearly built closer to the street than, in my opinion, was necessary, thus really not making a lot of room for front porches. This lot is 144 feet deep. So, you know, to build a home, and I'll go back to this, all of you have this GIS, but, you know, you look at this and you see, for a district that's zoned RM1, this is a very large, deep lot. And all of these are, so I kind of look at it and I scratch my head and go, why so close to where it is? You know, they all could have been set back an additional 20 feet and still met all the standards. But I found that interesting. All these deep, long lots, and for whatever reason, when they were built 60, 70 years ago, that's where they chose to build them. Go back to where I was. So basically, you know, that was my finding as far as if there is a practical difficulty. It's just that the original home, that and neighboring homes were built, you know, closer to the front yard, and we don't know what the setback was back then. You know, we don't know. That's long before the current ordinance was in effect. With respect to public notices of this hearing were provided not less than 15 days prior to the hearing date. Also, a notice was placed in the Cadillac News. Property owners within 300 feet of the subject site were also given notice of this meeting by mail. And that, folks, that's a part of the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, so that we make you aware that there is a public hearing. As of time of the staff report, I had no letters, no communication, but on Monday of this week, the property owner that owns the home immediately next door to the east called. She expressed support. She said all the work that's being done to this home is attractive. There are definite improvements. The porch is attractive. She said that she was completely supporting the porch as it's constructed so far. She truly felt it clearly is improving the property, and in her case, she said it makes my property look a little better too. As far as the Zoning Board of Appeals, based on finding of compliance or non-compliance with the standards of this ordinance, the board shall approve with conditions, or deny this variance application. Having said all of that, this meeting is now yours to discuss this application. If you have any questions for me, great. Mr. Bigelow is here, so if you have any questions for him.
Well, open for public comments. Do you have any comments?
I'm the guy that's got 18 inches farther than I should, so.
State your name and address for
It's Benjamin Bigelow, 4086 Morrow Drive, Cadillac.
I suppose move the house back 2 foot out of the question?
Yeah, we could probably do that, 18 inches anyway. Yeah. We can go have a beer on the porch.
Now that soffit is already up right now, right?
That's as far as we got, and Mike came and put a hammer on us, to be honest with you. It's his fault. He's the only guy in the city that does not like this porch that I've found so far. Just Mike only. No. That is the way it is still right now. Yep.
And the porch won't be enclosed?
I'm sorry?
The porch won't be enclosed?
No, that's just made to be an open porch. Yep.
If we do approve it, we need to make a condition that it can't be enclosed.
I'm inclined to improve. I mean, like Mike was saying, it keeps with the characteristic of the neighborhood. All those houses are way up front and everything.
The big thing, we don't want it enclosed because we have left the house on there in the corner shall be way too close.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely want to put any more barriers to anyone fixing up the houses on Pine Street, so definitely. I'd like, what should we fix to the motion to approve, you're
You
saying?
can make a motion to,
You should approve what you want to attach,
yeah.
a restriction to it, or what were you?
Yeah, but I'd say we put restriction to it, can't be enclosed.
Well, that's already part of the rules, right? He's not allowed to enclose it, right?
Well, that would be, that's actually it's a staff recommendation. It's basically the same. You folks have made similar decisions in the past with porches and side yard or front yard variances, is that, porches are a neat part of a house, but, all of a sudden if you enclose them, then it becomes, it changes the character. It changes the character.
I'll make the motion to approve with the additional requirement that it not be enclosed.
Yep, thank you.
Have a second? A second. Okay. Roll call.
Give me 1 second here, folks. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks a lot, you guys. Thank you, Mike.
Well, we got to vote on it first, Ben.
I think they all look pretty happy. All right.
Okay. Walkley?
Yes.
Bontrager? Genzik?
Yes.
Engels? Yes. Allen?
Yes.
Knight? Alt?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Pavilio? Nichols?
Yes. Okay. Go have fun, finish it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem, Ben.
The next one.
The next application, whoops. Where'd I go here? Okay. Apologize, everyone. Okay, I'm going to grab my copy of my staff report. The second application that we have tonight is for a setback variance application. The applicant, Barbara Durant, she owns the property at 2013 Sunnyside Drive. Her architect, Dean DeKreiger, is here. I don't know if she's here. I think she lives in California, but she may have family members here.
She is not here.
She is not here. But Barbara Durant, she owns the property at 2013 Sunnyside Drive. And it's a brick home, basically out the front of it. It faces Sunnyside Drive and across the street is, that is Lake Cadillac. Dang, I'm getting on the wrong side here. Okay. Basically, the application, the variance request is for a couple of things here. It's to construct a new home on the site at 2013 Sunnyside after demolition, leaving the current basement in place. Also, the request is to rebuild using the same footprint for both the side yard and rear yard setbacks, which currently are non-conforming. Also, there's a request to extend, not expand, the west side yard setback, and a request to extend, not expand, the rear yard setback. And lastly, a request to expand the square footage of the footprint based on these expanding that I mentioned, expanding from the current footprint of 2,158 square feet to 2,987 square feet. And those numbers are from the drawings that were included in your packets. This is a look at the rear of the house, and Mr. DeKreiger later can speak and explain, but my understanding is a couple of different things. Is one, with the expansion would be more of the home being in this area here, which, you know, the rear yard, the rear yard of the home, it's, you know, the back of the garage is there. And I'm going to go back a couple slides. And also, when I mentioned extending the west side setback, this area here that you see, which I measured, I believe, at 88 inches, bringing this out to the front of the house. So bringing this section out to the front of the house. And then more construction in this area coming out here, but not extending past where the current garage is. This is a GIS aerial that all of you have of the footprint of the home on the lot. It is a, you know, it's a small lot for a R1 zone district, which I'll get into more. The lot is 50 feet wide and an average of 126 feet from south to north, giving it a square footage of 6,300 square foot. And where I came up with the 126 is, I'm going to go back here a little. The lot is, as you can see the shape of the lot, it's a little longer here to the west than it is to the east. So what I did is I just took the distance of both sides of the lot, added them, divided it in two, and I came up with 126 feet. So that's where I came up with that. This is an R1 zone district, R1 one-family residential district. The R1 one-family residential district, the minimum lot width in a district of that type is 100 feet wide, and the square footage minimum is 12,500 square feet. So the width of this lot and the square footage are definitely non-conforming for an R1 district. This is the rear of the garage off the alley. You've got a survey stake here. So the width of the alley, it basically extends to right here, is the width of the alley. And that would be the alley right away. The distance from this concrete line here to the cement bricks is 8 feet. So it's well inside the, well, R1 district. The rear yard setback is typically 35 feet, and that's 8 feet. Mentioned the garage sits 8 feet from the rear lot line, which abuts the alley. This is an R1 district, and it calls for a minimum rear yard setback should be 35 feet. The west side of the garage is over here. You see the survey stake. The west side of the garage, I basically measured from, again, the bricks, not including the soffit. Soffit's a 6-inch soffit. It's a real short, or slim soffit. But basically from the brick to the fence, it was like 34 inches, roughly. It's right in that 3-foot range. So the west side of the home is, it's set very, very close to the rear lot, or the side. And the Code of Ordinances, again in R1 zone districts, it calls for a combined side yard setback of 25 feet, which makes sense for a lot that's 100 foot wide. In this 25 feet, obviously they don't have to be equal. One can't be 25 feet, one can't be 0, but they call for the smaller of the two side yard setbacks should be a minimum of 10 feet. So you could have 10 feet and 15, or, you know, any other combination. The current home is 2,158 square feet. It takes up 34.2% of the total lot area, which is 6,300 square feet. The ordinance calls for a maximum building coverage of 30% in an R1 district. So the current home does exceed the 30% by a little bit. There are nonconformities. You've already seen it. We've already talked briefly about it. But, you know, need to make you aware of the current nonconformities. The percent of the lot coverage is 34.2%. The lot width is 50 feet. The lot size is 6,300 square feet. The current west yard setback is 3 feet, and the current rear yard setback is 8 feet. Again, we went through, this is exactly what we went through earlier, but this is section 4669 from the Code of Ordinance. It's the same, again, it's the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, which we always go through these with every application. And again, the 5 standards are cannot impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, cannot unreasonably increase congestion in public streets, cannot increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety, cannot unreasonably diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area, and lastly, in any other respect, impair the public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of our city. In going through these, and again, these findings are staff findings. They're subjective, so you know your opinion matters more than mine. But the finding here is, you know, I don't think there would be any impact on light to adjacent property, but a larger footprint may impact airflow, and it may impact, because of airflow, blowing snow, neighboring properties, etc. And again, may. As far as congestion in public streets, the variance request should not unreasonably impact traffic congestion on public streets. Extending the rear yard setback, not expanding, extending it, may impact parking and congestion in the alley. Next standard. The next standard is should not increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety. The finding here, staff doesn't feel public safety would be affected. Again, everything would have to be built to meet all construction fire codes to get a certificate of occupancy. The 4th standard, unreasonably diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area. A new home on this site would clearly increase the property value at 2013 Sunnyside. What this would do to neighboring property values is unknown. It may improve them. It may not. I don't know. That's a judgment call for all of you. Lastly, in any other respect impair the public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of the city. Staff feels the proposed new construction should not impair the public health, safety, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of the city. But based on letters received from the neighbors, it may impact the comfort of the neighbors. And I say that in relation to parking and etc., things of that nature. The additional review standards, and again, these are like what we did with the first application. No such non-conforming use of structure or land shall be enlarged, increased, extended, or altered to occupy a greater area of land than was occupied at the effective date of adoption or amendment of the ordinance from which this chapter is derived. An exception to this is restrictions. Oops, did I jump to? An exception to this restriction can be made where an otherwise lawful structure exists that could not be built under the terms of this chapter by reason of restrictions on area, lot coverage, height, yards, or other characteristics of the structure of its location on the lot. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve the reestablishment, expansion, alteration, or extension upon evidence of demonstrable hardship or practical difficulty resulting from conditions which do not generally exist throughout the zone. The staff finding is that if there's any practical difficulty I see, it's that this is a small lot for the type of construction that's being proposed. There are many lawfully built homes as far as the standards. There are many lawfully built homes on 50-foot lots throughout the city, but they are not generally in an R1 zone district. This lot size is standard in our R3 and R4, also the RM1 zone district like the application we just heard. So that's standard size for those zone districts, but those zone districts don't have the same setback standards or those types of things. Public notices. Notice of this public hearing were provided not less than 15 days prior to the hearing date. Notice of this public hearing was placed in the Cadillac News. Property owners within 300 feet of the subject site were given notice via first-class mail of this public notice. 4 of the neighbors have contacted the City Hall with questions on the variance application. 3 wrote letters which were included in your packets. 1 additional email was received this week, and I provided that to you today. The one question staff has is, with the planned expansion is, where is there going to be off-street parking, and where in the world are they going to move snow? So those are questions that I have that, the applicant can hopefully answer. I believe that we've had applications like this before where there's actually potentially multiple motions to consider. First and foremost, after demolition, can a new home be constructed with the equivalent square footage of 2,158 square feet, or 34.2% of the lot? Another thing to consider is, can a new home be constructed on the same footprint, with it already having non-conforming setbacks? Next, can a new home be constructed, it's a totally different thing, can a new home be constructed with an expanded footprint of 2,987 square feet, or taking up 47.4% of the lot size? This Zoning Board of Appeals, based on finding of compliance or non-compliance with the standards of the ordinance, the board shall approve with conditions, or deny this variance application. I'm going to go back here quite a ways. With that, I will leave it for your discussion. If you have any questions for me, please ask. If you have any questions for the architect or for the representatives for Ms. Durant, they are here, and some of the neighbors are obviously here.
Okay. For open public comment, remember, it's 3-minute time limit on discussion of it. And need your name and address, please.
Good evening, I'm Dean D. Krieger with the DK Design Group, 1104 South Mitchell Street, Cadillac. I guess the only thing I would ask Mike, whether, do you have the actual site plan?
Yes, the drawing? Yes.
Yeah.
And they all have it too.
Okay.
They have it with them.
I guess just to point out, first of all, that as Mike said, we are not looking to expand any setbacks. What we are looking at is, in essence, squaring out the existing setbacks. This building, when I started working with Barb Durant, what she is looking for is a home where she can live during the summer, but our goal was to try and keep it on one level. In order to put even a second bedroom on the first floor, this footprint is simply too small. So in doing that, we were looking at possibly squaring this out. That's where this started. If we cannot do that, in order to get a second bedroom, we will have to put a second story on the house, and we felt that would be more impactful than simply squaring this out. So that's where our logic came from. The owner will not be here during the winter. As far as snow removal, that's one issue, but this will be a summer home. So I guess those are my thoughts. Any other questions for me?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody?
Good evening. My name is William Paul. Address is 8050 Hagstrom Lane, Cadillac. I'm representing my mother, Florence Paul, and who lives right next door to the east, and Susan Paul, or Susan Rose, who owns the lot southwest of the subject property. I guess there's a lot of things to consider here. This is really different from the first time I've been to a zoning meeting, really different from the previous one, and a lot more complicated. And I've lived there for over 50 years, and I don't live there now, but I've cleaned up snow, and I was a kid in the family that did all the snow blow and shovel and everything else. And there were years where it came to almost the top of the roofs from the lake. You get a big north wind, and it fills in. The alley gets full, and the city plows come by when they come by. They've done a pretty good job lately cleaning it up. But I remember when my parents moved there also. They went around Lake Mitchell, tried to find a house on the lake. Everything was jammed in. Everything looked like row houses. Cadillac's different. Things are spread out. Things look better. They don't look like a bunch of summer homes. And they look like houses. But I'm just concerned if you approve this that this is a step in the wrong direction, and a lot of other things can happen to affect the neighbors. And if you have any questions, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
State your name and your address.
My name is Steve Williams, and my address is 2017 Sunnyside Drive. I am the property directly west of the subject property here. I've been there somewhere almost 30 years. This is a vacation home for us. We have another home downstate. This is the fourth people who's owned this home since I've been there, and the very first person who was there when we built on the house was Ruth Carter, and she was the only neighbor that I've had there that ever honored the property line. All three of the other ones I continuously had problems with them going onto my lot, including, and worse than all the rest of them, Barb Durant. There was 2 trees that were right adjacent to that fence last year that were cut down, and her crew dragged all that tree, the stumps and the branches across my lot, tore my lot all up, my grass. My wife and I came back from Traverse City that day, and in front of our garage, stacked 8 feet high, were branches and trees on my property. They didn't even put it on that property. That's why you see the fence there now. I said that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Yes. So I put that fence up. I have a real problem with the expansion of this property because I think the house right now as it stands is a deterrent to my property value. If it was built right to size, within some better restrictions, it would be a plus to my property. But I feel that this addition that they're putting on there is going to make my property even less valuable. If you see on the picture there, you see that white storm door? That's a breezeway. That's on a slab currently. The basement is underneath the house, but that's currently on a slab. It's a breezeway on a slab. That's the part of the house that's closest to my lot line. That's currently 58 feet long. The proposed expansion is now going to make that 80 feet long. That's going to be like the Great Wall of China, down 3 feet from my property line, all the way down there.
Okay.
That's going to be horrible.
Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Terry Marquardt, and I live at 2009 Michigan Avenue. I live across from the Pauls in this house, and I do the snow removal for the Pauls next door. Like he said, it's a real challenge in the winter months. His mother's in her 90s. The house is too big for the lot already. I mean, it is, compared to, our whole neighborhood is just, everybody has just about double lots. It's a beautiful area. It's a Sunnyside addition. Looking at it where Steve put his fence in shows me how close they are to the line. On the other side of the house, the Pauls have very little space in between it. The demolition of this scares me. How are you going to take this house out when you have no room on his side and very little room on her side? It's very upsetting to her. It's upsetting to me. I think it's just incredible to make this house bigger on a small lot. 50 foot is just very small. I just would hope that you would take this into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
All right.
State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Dobbs, and I live at 113 Indiana. I moved here 17 years ago. The neighborhood has changed somewhat, but it still is very, let's say, very nice. I live across the way. I can look out my back window and see the Williams house and Paul's house and the property that's Mrs. Durant's. And I say if she wants to build a new house, she should just move down the street. There's a vacant property by the condos. You can buy that whole lot. You can build a monster house there. You don't need to mess with anybody else trying to put a Cadillac in a Toyota parking lot. That's all I can say. This is a Volkswagen parking lot, and you're trying to put a motor home in it. So I say sell the house and buy the lot down the road. It's right on Sunnyside Drive. It's available to anyone. It's been for sale for some time. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, we'll close the section, and it's up to us now. Actually, I've looked at it. Personally, I think it's 30% coverage for a house. That lot's too big. But I can't go smaller. And the other one I found out, like I said, the 8-foot parking behind the garage. Well, my truck is 26 feet long and it's a short wheelbase. What the heck would that do to the alley? No way to get park in that thing. And when it's showing a third garage, it eliminates the one other place people could park.
Or put snow.
Any other comments?
I drove by it, it's a small space there in the alley. And then you're just gonna make it even smaller with that third garage.
Yeah. You'd have no place to park in it. Maybe a motorcycle, but...
Yeah, I would like to say a couple things. I mean, one thing to the neighbors, you can't be upset about construction. If it occurs, construction may happen next to you. It's not convenient for anyone. But as far as to Dean and to the person who's building the house, I don't think I could support even the reestablishment of the building. I'd like to see where the actual basement foundation is and what's on a slab and what's not on a slab. That thing that contributes to violating like the lakefront setbacks might also be on a slab, and I know somebody mentioned...
Can I approach? I can show you what's what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dean, do you want me to... Oh, I'm sorry.
This is the basement, actually,
Yeah, this house. That's the basement, yep. And this has got a slab here, which was a breezeway, and then the garage.
in the garage, okay.
The proposed no addition would be on a slab.
The proposed new addition would either be on a slab or a crawl space.
Like that right
I'm
here.
sorry?
Show us over here.
Sure. The existing house, may I mark on this? Is here. That's where the basement is, that rectangular shape. The breezeway is in here, and then this is garage.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely couldn't approve any of these. I have to see something completely different before I'd be able to vote yes on anything, especially with the way the existing print is, if you're doing a complete tear down. And there are, just for the sake of going forward, I mean, and I can't speak for everybody else, but there are, variances I would vote for. If you met the, 10-foot minimums on the side, and you weren't within the 25 combined, that's the type of thing we might be able to get behind. Going from, 30% to 35 lot percent coverage, which you're currently at, with the new design, that's the type of a new design we can get behind. And even, improving upon the back setback. I know it's supposed to be 35, but if you improve that to, to 20 or something, but there has to be an improvement in setbacks, because I think those are the types of things that do impair people's property values, and especially ones going towards the lake on Sunnyside Drive. That addition, the square on the front, creeps forward, closer than other people's houses are. So I'd have to, I definitely will eventually make a, motion to deny all these, and I'd have to see something completely different, because I wouldn't even, support the reestablishment of it on the current print.
Does she need our approval to rebuild on that footprint?
Basically, there's a couple of things that need approval. One, after demolition, the first that we mentioned is, let me get right to it here, a couple different things. Bear with me, where did I put it? Okay. There's actually a number of things. I mean, you could say, a motion could be made to approve to rebuild on the same footprint, but it would basically leave you restricted to the same layout. As I've mentioned here, after demolition, once you demolish if you're going to rebuild and there's nonconformities, it needs to come to you for approval. So essentially, variety of issues. After demolition, you could maybe say, well, a new home can be built with the with the equivalent square footage of 2158, but it may have the condition it's got to meet certain setback standards. The other thing, and this is based on what was applied for, is can a new home be constructed on the same footprint with these non-conforming setbacks?
What is considered the footprint? Just
The
as a
footprint
garage
is,
or
well, this is where my simple interpretation of the footprint is what you're looking at right there that already exists.
Anything in front
so
of
part of the mudroom or whatever, the breezeway that is on a slab is part of the footprint?
It is right
Okay.
now. Yes. So that's why I broke that down into potentially different things, because there's a variety of issues based on the nonconformities, in my opinion.
Is there, what about, is there argument about the fence post on the lot line?
Mr. Williams would have to get into that. I mean, a survey's been done. Yes, in 1 second. A survey's been done. I think Mr. Williams had one. I think another one's been done. But, essentially that would be an issue that I don't see the city would get involved in, because that's between neighbors. That's not a, you know what I mean? The ordinance is pretty clear. If you get a survey, you can build a fence 2 inches from the property line. If you get a survey. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, and the other thing that I'm concerned about is the demolition and the construction along my property line. There's only, right now, there's less than 3 feet to that current wall from my property line. My fence is 2 inches onto my property right now. I'm very concerned that that fence is going to be demolished along with the house. I'm sure it will be. They've got to redig to put foundations in for that new wall. This is all sand here. I know when I dug my basement, they dig it about 2 feet larger than the actual size of the basement so they can finish it off. When that sand dries up, it caves in. When I built my house, several times they had to go back there and remove that sand that caved in. Well, when this sand caves in here, it's going to take my fence with it and part of my property. And I'm not going to stand for it. I mean, I shouldn't have to. I just think it's bad news. I think that house can be redesigned and built on there. You could build an attractive house that can better meet the setback requirements and meet the square foot requirements that they need to live in it.
Yeah, there's still going to be some, very serious demolition and construction next door to you.
Yes. Thank you.
The biggest thing is, if we say 30%, they can take that house and they're like it's supposed to be.
I'm actually going, I just want to I wouldn't approve anything without, or any of the violations without seeing a new plan. That's just me. I couldn't approve.
Did you want to reopen? You wanted to say something?
You want to say?
I'd like to.
We'll reopen the floor, but...
Thank you very much. My name is Bob Durant. I live at 7470 East M115. It's my sister bought this house. Walt and Ruth Carter, like he said, very nice people that were friends of ours. He says about encroaching on their property. Either way, even if she remodels the house, leaves the footprint exactly like it is, and expands the house to a second floor, she won't, because she doesn't have the right to tear up his fence, his property, or anything else. The problem he had before, very understandable, with the timber being put on there and the brush and stuff. The landscape guy should have known better. You don't use somebody else's property without permission. She went over, I guess she talked to him, I don't know what they resolved, but I'll let that go.
No, she thought it was funny.
You also swore at my mother, so don't go there. I'm just saying that whatever they do, they're just trying to square up that house. The front porch, they're not going any farther out than what the property is. But I think I've used my 3 minutes. Thank you.
The biggest problem I have is that such a small lot for that big of a house.
I agree, and I don't think none of us can agree with expanding that house.
No.
But on the other hand, you have somebody that owns a house, and you get rights when you buy
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
I don't know if we really have the right to say that you can't use that same footprint.
The city would...
We do with all nonconformities that it offers.
Well, it's been that way for a long time. She
Yeah.
bought the house that way. And
Years ago, this board was basically...
I realize that, but...
You come in, it got stamped, and then we got a lot of weird things like this.
I agree.
In this time now,
But I don't think it's right for us to tell somebody that they can't use the same footprint.
well,
That's just my personal...
They're not asking to.
they're asking to make it bigger.
No, and I agree. No, we shouldn't allow that.
I feel like,
But to use the same footprint,
I feel like if they, like, were bothering to tear it down, like, to put in an extra slab, or, I mean, especially when you showed you the, additional square, like, to shift, a thing over here, if you're not digging a basement, if you're relaying slabs, I just, I'd want to see the next plan, I guess. So you're saying that is the alternate request, is just to build, you're going to build on the same footprint, the exact same thing?
Yeah, that's where we started. Quite frankly, as I said, straight up, we're trying to put a second bedroom in there. It's just really tight. So where we started, again, if there's public comments come open, may I approach?
Yeah, open it again.
The way this discussion started was the thought of squaring at least this corner out. And that's where I started putting the application together, and Bart said also, well, we would also still like to put the bedroom here in the other stall, so they asked to push that farther, I guess. The question I have, one, if we were to back up and only square this out and use the existing plan, or just use the existing plan, our footprint, excuse me, those are the questions, so we need to know what we can do.
I think we all agree with not expanding the house.
Is that basement finished?
No, it is not.
Are we open to public or closed to public?
Closed, no.
We're closed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we need to do is we need to get the list of what the variances are, vote on it yes or no. And then if we say no to everything, then they have to come up with a new plan and bring it back to us.
Sounds good.
So.
Okay.
You make that into a motion, I'll vote for it.
All right.
Start with
Mike, is there...
What is your question to me?
We got to vote individually on each motion though, right?
Well, I mean, I think for clarity, it's up to you folks. It's your Board of Appeals. What question do you have for me first?
What I'm wondering is, there's like 5 different things she wants a variance for.
Right.
Okay? So I would like to make a motion to not pass any of the variances
Okay, yes?
in relationship to the City of Cadillac's variance policy.
Code of ordinances.
Yeah.
And I'll second it.
Yes, okay.
Who's seconded it? Flip.
And we'll vote.
Okay.
May I ask a question before you vote? Is that saying then that is building on the existing footprint a variance?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear. You may want to say...
Yes.
Can't we vote individually on ech motion?
yeah, we can make the second one.
If you wish. I
I
mean, you
would
can...
like to vote individually on each motion.
That's fine. Then start making the motion.
So the first one is expanding the house.
To keep
I would
it,
like to deny that that part.
Okay. A motion to deny the, jump
we have
up
a second
to
for it?
43%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, question I have.
This is to deny the jump to 47.4% of lot coverage, which is the new plan.
Deny to expand more than 34.2 or whatever it is? Okay, now, Sherry made a motion earlier. Are we just retracting that motion for the moment?
That's fine.
Okay, we'll retract that for the moment. So Carl's motion is to deny expanding the size above the 34.2% or 2,158 square feet that it currently is. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, everybody understands that? Then we will take a vote on that. Bontrager, Pavilio, Knight, Alt,
Yes.
Engels,
Yes.
Allen,
Yeah.
Walkley,
Yes.
Gensick,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Okay. No to expanding the overall square footage of the property, or of the
structure.
structure. Okay?
Make a motion to approve the variance that allows them to reconstruct at 34.2% of lot coverage, which will give them the exact same square footage, which still is different from the setbacks and using the lot line, but it's allowing them not to reduce the square footage of their houses down to 30, which is the actual variance that we'd be approving. Is that what we were thinking was the next step, to approve them keeping their square footage at least, which is different than keeping the same footprint?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'll make a motion to approve the variance that lets them, reconstruct at 34.2%, which is the exact same square footage of the footprint. I mean, I don't, that's the type of variance where, because she bought a house that she, doesn't necessarily deserve less square footage than she purchased, I would say. Correct. I think that it shouldn't be, where it is where we're gonna. So I'll make that motion.
So your
Basically the same
motion is that they can, right? They got non-conformity is 34.2% of it.
Yeah, saying nothing with the setback lines in the property,
Right.
just the actual percentage wise. And I'll make a motion to approve that variance that they get to keep there.
Similar to Carl's, worded slightly different. Does that make sense? But it's basically allowing over 30%. Am I correct?
Allowing them to keep the same square footage of a footprint.
But up to 34.2.
I'll second that one.
Okay. Need a roll call?
Knight. Allen.
Yeah.
Gensick.
Yes.
Engels.
Yes.
Bontrager. Pavilio. Walkley.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, next one is the big setbacks, right?
Yeah, and that's gonna be a little, I mean, you only got 50 foot, so it's a non-conforming, house.
Yeah.
The setbacks are supposed to be 25 foot.
Combined.
Combined.
10 minimum.
Combined.
10 minimum.
Can be 10
So
one.
that means your house can only be 25 foot wide.
30 if we granted one for just to the minimum, but yeah.
I would say that setbacks variance had to come back to another, after they get the house designed.
Well, that's why I said some type of improvement, why I wanted to see a new design, because it just seems like, I don't want to speak for,
I hate to say they have to do it more than once, but,
yeah, it's hard without having a different number in front of us.
because they can, architects can try to get it closer.
And the 3 foot one seems to be the big variance, the variance that would be way beyond what anybody would approve, is a 3 foot variance from someone else's lot line. We didn't let someone else put their garage, whatever, 3 feet from someone else that had a fence up that.
I think the setbacks need to wait till we get.
Mike, can I ask a question then, Bob, just so I understand? Essentially, if I'm hearing you correctly, before you would want to make any kind of a motion for or against setbacks, you'd basically like to see a new design, a new site plan, seeing what the setbacks are that they would propose. Does that sound correct?
And just to be clear, I'll make a motion to deny approval to continue construction along the 3-foot. We can vote on that. I deny the request to reconstruct on the current footprint, the 3-foot variance on the west lot line. I'll make a motion to deny that request for the variance.
We already denied that, I think.
No, we're
This is a
thinking
3-foot.
individually.
Yeah, and this will essentially not allow them to build on the same footprint when we pass
Oh,
the denial.
I see what you're saying, okay.
And especially the 3-foot one, because that seems to be the... So I'll make that motion to deny the 3-foot variance on the west side of the property line. Construction.
How much room is there in the front?
The front is easily, you mean off the front of the house there? The front of the house is easily more than 35 feet off of the, the front.
You don't have a measurement for that one?
I don't have it, but I know I did a quick measurement and it was well over 30, it was well over 35, so, there would technically, well, we saw this earlier, there would technically, I'm almost positive, be room for them to, for example, build a, open porch, or a, you know what I mean? There certainly is, there's no setback issues with the front yard facing the lake or Sunnyside Drive.
May I ask Dean a question?
Absolutely.
Would you be able to construct a nice house with conforming to the setbacks of 25 foot? That'd be 25 foot wide.
The question,
My house is 24 feet wide.
whether I can do it as the owner requests is going to be the question. I just have to make sure I can fit their program. I think there's a possibility. I guess the question I would ask is, especially if we would like to try and save the cost of the basement, is it possible to get an approval to use the setbacks that are on the main house?
Is that 10 foot or what is
It's
that?
10 foot and whatever is on the other side.
What is on the other side?
I do not know that, but I would have guesstimated it's in the...
That, I would have to wait to see the...
If we could get dimensions on where that was, if that's 3 foot, then
No,
like that.
it's more like 8 or 10.
That's the type of thing.
Are you talking about this central part of the house right here?
No, I'm talking the setback on the east side of the house.
Between the, right there.
Yep.
Okay. That's the type of setback I would approve to the drawing. I think.
That's the big one we need black
We'd
and
have to
white.
see it to approve.
And I'd just like to make sure you have the measurement in there next time we have that too.
Yeah, it was not on the measurements you've got there are from the survey as it was given to me, so I need to get those from the surveyor.
So I'm still going to make a motion to deny the 3-foot variance request on reconstruction of the current print.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Roll call. Alt.
Yes.
Bengals.
Yes.
Gensick.
Yes.
Pavilio. Knight. Walkley.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Bontrager. Nichols.
Yes.
Anything else?
The biggest thing, you got drawings for the back. Well, once you get the thing drawn,
Well, essentially with Roberts not allowing to build on the same footprint is going to require,
garage problem.
if it's going to require, depending on what the design is, probably a design coming back here, and at that point you would evaluate the whole thing.
In the past, even there's the rule of things we recommend 20 feet. Does someone recommend, what was the recommendation, the minimum recommendation?
You mean we had in the case with the one on Lake Shore, was it, or was it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd have to look it up, but it might have been actually slightly more, around 20 feet minimum we wanted, so that when the garage is constructed, a person can actually park,
in front
you
of
know,
the
behind the garage. And I'll, let me find, I guess for the Durants to see, bear with me. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Durant, what we did, they had a case here recently where construction, and they wanted it set back from the property line far enough in this direction so that a vehicle could be pulled up and parked behind the garage doors without extending into the, you know, the roadway or etc. The roadway and the property line were one and the same. And it was just for parking because people have guests come over. And where are they going to park?
And not everybody has a 20-foot car, a 10-foot car.
And in that picture, you can see Mr. Williams, you can see where his garage is set back. And in fact...
Still like a 15-foot variance that's granted on the 13.
Yeah. You know, you'd need to see the drawings, but, yeah, and I mean, here's a good example in the photo you've got. Here's Mr. Williams' house, and you can see that, you know, there is room for a car to park behind his garage without extending into the, you know.
Look
And
better
Mrs.
too.
Paul, she has, you know, her driveway's here. She's got a unique situation. Doors on both ends, so she can actually pull out, your mom can pull out any way she wants.
Yeah, she usually goes out the back.
Does she? Okay, rather than back out onto Sunnyside Drive. Right.
Especially in the winter months.
Right. So,
As long as we leave the walls, we're not changing the footprint whatsoever.
pardon?
We can put a new roof on it then?
Oh, yes.
So if we don't leave them, don't move anything with the
Yeah,
wall?
if you don't demolish the home,
Right.
you're totally entitled to repair, maintenance, etc., completely entitled to that.
Okay, are we entitled to extend the bulk of the house to a second floor if we don't tear it down?
You're not expanding the footprint, you're not affecting the setbacks.
Right.
You know, potentially, the only thing that might affect the setbacks would be soffits, because typically,
We'll just have to make sure the soffits are not any
yeah,
further than...
because typically, when we've done a number of them, we've considered soffits to be a part of the footprint as far as, you know, setbacks. But yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, I would have to say they probably would be, I mean, I can't think of any reason they wouldn't be able to put a second story over, you know, the main structure if that was something that, you know,
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything that would restrict that because it doesn't affect the setbacks
Right.
or the nonconformity.
They just have to be engineered to make sure it's strong enough to support the extra weight.
I think you could do that, right?
I mean, that's the only thing there.
Wheels are turning.
Okay,
We done?
we
I
done?
think we done.
Well, I guess we're
You
done.
folks have anything else to public? Okay, then we are...
I just have one question on just what he mentioned. What they're saying then is they could still maintain that 3-foot setback on the one side and go up 2 stories.
Yeah.
I can't.
It's the old grandfather clause. It's there, as long as it's not touched, you can do what you want.
It means you have to expand from that slab up.
Yeah.
Actually, you'll probably gain a few inches because the brick will go back to a siding, but that looks better.
That brings another question to my mind, and that's the fact, how do you maintain that side of the house? There's 2 stories, and you got
That's
36 inches.
that's the, whoever does maintain problem, not mine. They're gonna have to build some kind of scaffolding or something like that. I mean, that's their problem. We can't control that.
That's fine.
Okay, we'll close it. We have any board member comments?
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you for your input in the papers. I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll adjourn for the night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next time.